They thought she was just a simple woman, a quiet widow living alone at the edge of the neighborhood. They thought they could bully her, control her, shame her into silence. But what the HOA didn't realize was that Mary wasn't really alone. Behind her gate, pacing the yard with calm strength, were 3 military-trained K9s, dogs who had seen more than any suburban enforcer could imagine. And the night they tried to push her too far was the night those K9s reminded everyone what loyalty and courage truly mean. Mary moved into the neighborhood after her husband passed away. He had been a career soldier, serving multiple tours overseas. When he died, Mary inherited not only his medals and folded flag, but also the 3 German shepherds he had trained during his final years of service. They weren't just pets, they were family, his legacy. They lived quietly with her on a modest piece of property where she tended a garden, read books on her porch, and tried to heal from her loss. But in the eyes of the HOA, Mary was a problem. Her fence was the wrong shade of brown. Her grass, sometimes longer than the HOA liked, was deemed unsightly. And worst of all, her dogs, though well-trained, disciplined, and never aggressive without cause, were labeled dangerous animals. At first, Mary tried to comply. She repainted the fence. She spent hours mowing, even when her back ached. She paid fines she couldn't afford. But it was never enough. The HOA president, a sharp-faced woman named Linda, made it her personal mission to break Mary down. It all came to a head one sweltering summer afternoon. Mary was sitting on her porch sipping iced tea when 3 HOA enforcers marched up her driveway with clipboards in hand. "We've warned you enough times," Linda sneered. "Those dogs are a liability. Either you get rid of them, or we'll take action." Mary set her glass down and stood, her hands trembling but her voice steady. "These dogs saved lives. They are trained. They are disciplined. They are all I have left." But Linda only scoffed. "Then you'll have nothing." That evening, Mary heard a noise near the back gate, metal clanging, voices whispering. She stepped outside and froze. 2 men in HOA shirts were trying to force the gate open. They weren't there to talk. They were there to take. "Get the cages," one hissed. Rage and fear surged through Mary, but before she could even cry out, the gate burst open. The dogs were already there. Max, the eldest, moved first, his stance protective, ears back, teeth bared in a warning growl that reverberated through the night air. Behind him, Rex and Luna flanked their positions like soldiers on a mission, their eyes locked on the intruders. Mary shouted, "Stay!" And the dogs obeyed, muscles tense but perfectly disciplined. The men froze, suddenly realizing these weren't backyard pets. These were trained K9s, dogs who had been taught to hold ground under fire, to defend without hesitation. One of the intruders tried to bluff. "Call them off. We're authorized." But his voice cracked, betraying his fear. Mary stepped forward, her courage finally rising. "You're not authorized to break into my property. You're trespassing." And then the moment broke wide open, the distant sound of sirens, growing louder. A neighbor, awakened by the commotion, had already called the police. When the officers arrived, the scene told the story better than words ever could. Mary stood in front of her loyal K9s, her back straight, her eyes fierce. The HOA enforcers, caught red-handed with tools and cages, tried to sputter excuses, but the officers weren't buying it. Within minutes, handcuffs clicked, flashlights scanned the ground, and the reality of their crime was laid bare. The simple woman they thought they could bully had stood tall, and she hadn't stood alone. The aftermath was both exhausting and liberating. There were hearings, investigations, and plenty of paperwork. The HOA tried to spin the story, painting Mary as the aggressor, but neighbors rallied to her side. People who had once ignored her suddenly saw her strength, her dignity, and the loyalty of the animals she loved. The local news covered the story, showing footage of her dogs training in perfect unison, following commands with military precision. The image of Mary standing proudly with her shepherds by her side went viral, turning her from a target into a hero. In the end, the HOA's power crumbled. Their leaders resigned under pressure, their credibility shattered. Mary kept her home, her dogs, and her dignity. On quiet mornings now, she still sits on the porch with her tea. The dogs rest at her feet, calm and loyal, eyes scanning the horizon not out of fear but out of habit. They are guardians, not just of her home, but of her heart. The lesson is simple but profound. Never mistake quiet strength for weakness. The world is full of people like Mary, people who live humbly, who carry unseen battles, who may seem easy to overlook. But when pushed too far, when cornered, they will stand with a strength born of love, loyalty, and resilience. And sometimes, that strength has 4 legs, sharp eyes, and the discipline of a soldier's best friend.